on.
And a very good evening to everybody, and a warm welcome to our Lyceum Night, coming to you from the Paul Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. Wonderful evening with a very, very dear friend of mine and his partner, who's hiding in the background there somewhere, the wonderful Jack Eckhart from Denmark. Jack is the president of the Danish Spiritual Association. And we first met in 2020 with the online works. And we have had the pleasure of hosting Jack and Lola here at Paul on several occasions, which is always great fun and really informative and really progressive. So, Jack, thank you so much for giving up your time tonight to have a little talk with us and share this evening with everyone watching. Good evening to you, Jack.
Thank you, Lawrence. Always a pleasure.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, that's throwing me a bit short. We're also now with our Lyceum Nights sharing these evenings with those people in Denmark and the Danish Spiritual Association as well. So a very warm welcome to everybody joining us tonight, wherever you are watching us, and be it tonight live or later on in a catch-up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we were talking about tonight and what to discuss, and I just thought it's that time of year now, isn't it? We've changed the clocks. We're having to turn lights on at 4:30. So, the year is already starting to slip away from us. So just a very quick recap from both of us on what we've been up to this year. But guess first, Jack, I know you and Lola have been incredibly busy over there with work for the association.
Yeah, the association has, I don't know if I can say it has been that busy, but yeah, there has been things going on, and a lot of things that have been planned, and as well a lot of things that haven't been going through, sadly, for different reasons. But that's how it is at the moment here in Denmark. It really is. So yeah, it's times of changes. So it's under the association we did a summer tour with different mediums going around Denmark, and we made a kind of a new concept where we started to talk a little bit about what is mediumship, because it's like in Denmark there's a lot of confusion about what is mediumship, what is psychic, and these things. So we did these evenings where people could attend, like a small demo, but a little talk before we started. A little talk about what is mediumship, and explanation used 15 maybe 20 minutes before we started to explain what is mediumship, how is it working, and then demonstrated it, and it has been very well achieved from the people that have joined, because they had got an understanding of what they were watching. The cases in Denmark, a lot of people think that mediumship is psychic. I know it's many people in UK does that as well, but not as much as in Denmark. So there's a lot of education to do in Denmark, both of mediums, but definitely out of people out there as well, to have that understanding of what is mediumship. Sadly, we are way too few spiritualists in Denmark. But hopefully we will be able to make the numbers grow more. But again, spiritualism is quite new in Denmark in all respects. So yeah. So we have had our ups and downs. Just before COVID, we were really high on numbers of mediums and things. Then the COVID came, and after COVID, it has been hard for many different reasons to get it all up running again. A lot of mediums during COVID here in Denmark. I don't know how it is in UK, but a lot of mediums here in Denmark, also almost about to say, died during COVID. They stopped working and never got started again.
Yeah, we've had the same in the UK.
So that's basically the situation right now, and it's there are challenges to face, but as I said, we have our yearly AGM coming up later this month, and hopefully we'll get some new power built into the association, and new people joining in to help lifting. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That is really interesting, because here in the UK there is, I've talked to many people. I'm not the authority on anything, but I do get a good sort of like ground view opinion. And in the UK, Dems of mediumship, I've seen a slight decline. Some, really hold their own, but they're not what they used to be in the UK. You put an evening mediumship on and you were guaranteed 40, 50, 60 people.
Yeah.
Now you've really got to work at it. But one of the interesting things, and you've picked up on that energy there, when you introduce your Dems, now your audience hasn't got the knowledge of spiritualism. Over here in the UK, although we do have the knowledge of spiritualism, many people coming into our churches, centres, Dems, exactly the same as the people in your congregations, where they don't have that education. So
Yeah, I know.
It's interesting to hear that's the way you start your Dems off, because it's getting my mind working. We can make a terrible mistake sometimes in our churches and centres of assuming everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
We do raise things like, is there anybody here for the first time? And then just giving, that's the reassurance there of, don't worry, our heads don't spin, the lights don't dim or anything. But it's that educational side, and it's nights like this and many others of a similar energy, which are really getting popular now. Our YouTube channel and our podcasts, people are really taking an interest and learning more about it. Because in the UK, to a degree, the education side has been very thin on the ground. I mean, everybody is well acquainted to a medium standing on a platform and bringing through messages. But the actual underpinning and how does it work and why does it work? Why do we get messages? That's such a good question. Why would Spirit bother coming back to tell us, to prove to us? Why? So, that's really interesting that you're working that way, Jack. I like that. I like that energy as well. I can sense that even over online like this. And I've seen the photos, so good attendances. Well done.
And of course, when we're doing the services, we are doing quite a traditional service, even though maybe in a more modern way than many churches are doing in UK, because we are using more modern songs. We're not using hymns because we don't have the hymns in Denmark. I don't have the tradition, but we use more modern songs. Can be pop songs, rock, can be any kind of song. But what we don't, what I have realized over many years now is many of these songs is actually quite spiritual. Many songs are talking about God. Many songs are talking about spirit in many different ways. And the way we're putting our services together is slightly different because we are looking at when we have the reading. What is the subject of the reading, and we will look for songs that is fitting in with that subject. So we will have a thread through the service.
Yeah.
From the first song over the reading, obviously the address will be influenced by the reading and by the other songs and things. And we'll usually have about 3 songs, one to start with, one to them on, and one to finish the service. But there will be a connection all the way through that way, and most of the time it works really well that way. I know, Lawrence, you have been watching some of our online services, so you have an idea. I know you don't understand the lyrics of a lot of the songs because they're Danish, but I know we have had a few other English people in there watching and just watching the energy say in them. And so it's a so yeah. Even though, yeah, as I said, spiritualism is quite new in Denmark in all respect. We are taking a lot of inspiration from what has been done in UK for many years, but we are maybe just loosening it a little bit up, taking a more modern approach to it. But staying very much to the piles within spiritualism, with the philosophy, with the mediumship, and things like that.
Yeah, and we have got that scope to move forward with the times within our various forms of praise and worship. It can be a very contentious thing. I do know that in churches. When we try and bring in an element of change, there can be comments to full-on resistance against it. But then, we do need to update what we're doing. We do need to have a nod to today. It's always been a battle cry of we've got to get the young into our church. Well, if they come into I'm not saying all of them, but some of our churches and centres are being run in an incredibly orthodox way. I attended a service to see a particular person working that I'd not seen before, and it did really strike me of how ultra orthodox the entire format was. There were a few, when I say young, the trouble is, isn't it, Jack? We get to an age, and when we start talking about young people, we're talking about people who are 40.
Yeah.
There were younger people in that service that night, and you could just see that there was not a lot resonating with them. There wasn't I'm not saying that we got to change it totally and turn it into a full-on disco shimmy age or whatever.
No.
But we've got to bring in that new energy and be that more inclusive. We talk about inclusivity, and yet we can be the worst ones regarding age. But hats off to you, Jack. I must just say, Jack, please don't use that background again, because every time you move, it looks like there's a spider crawling over the top of your head, and it's quite off-putting.
Oh, don't worry, there is.
Oh, that's right. He's a big bugger. But we have this opportunity to continually reinvent ourselves. We got the lovely Ron Cox in the room tonight from Florida. And I know that he's been working, and congratulations, because Ron Cox has just been awarded his doctorate. So well done, Ron.
No, well done.
And now I can actually say to him in all earnest, "What's up, Doc?" But
Yeah.
moving on. But I know Ron's been presenting gatherings and in this slightly different way. All right, each country is going to have its uniqueness there. I love in America, a lot of the places, you will have a meal when you were there. And I'm thinking, why is this you have a meal? But of course, it's such a huge country geographically.
Yeah.
That is not uncalled for, that people will travel 2, 3, or 4 hours to go to see a service or a demonstration. So yeah, having a meal part of that is fully understandable.
Yeah, and in
But
Denmark, traveling that time will bring you from one end of the country to the other.
I know it's funny how our country's sizes condition us.
Yeah.
When I worked in London, the bars and clubs, we had a lot of bar staff from Australia and New Zealand and places like that. And they say to them, "Why have you come all the way around the world?" But of course, their countries, they can drive 6 hours to the next house, sort of thing. Yeah. So that distance suddenly seems lesser to them than if we thought, "Oh, I'm going to Scotland." It's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to Scotland, quick, get everything organised."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but back on track. I think we've seen a good year. And as I said, I've been, quite aware of what you and Lola and your committee have been achieving over there. Hats off to you. It's really good to see movement. We here at Paul, I'm pleased with this year. I'm very pleased. We've had some, our divine services just keep going from strength to strength. So we must be doing something right. And they really are a joy on a Sunday morning. I always say it's the jewel in the crown of the week. Because we have marvellous people coming in, it's a marvellous community. Demonstrators never let us down. We always have, a service full of things that can engage us, engross us, and help us take away from it. We've had quite a good run of, so sorry, a bit froggy tonight. We've had quite a good run this year as well of various development courses and one-day workshops going on. They've all been well attended, wonderful demonstrators. We should have had one this weekend, but I've been saying now for, I think probably about a year, we've got to look after our mediums, and there was the personal issues going on with who should have been here this weekend. I said, don't worry about it, council, do not worry about it. So we finished up the year on a high with the lovely Frederick, where we had a 5-day course. And from that, we have a series of circles next year, 10-week course of circles for everybody who is on that course, because the demand's there. So it's lovely to see people grow. Next year's calendar, just as exciting here at Paul, but there is a little bit more of a focus on self-development. It's all very well having all the workshops on improving your mediumship and etc. But there's more emphasis there on self-development. And also there's a slight shift in some of the workshops away from purely the evidential medium. We've got a 2-day course on trance mediumship. We have a couple of 1-day courses on the power of a private sitting. We've got 2 workshops coming up on philosophy. So I'm just trying to get that energy in of people's own self-development, because I feel this has been slightly overlooked in our movement. But yeah, because if we don't develop ourselves first and foremost, everything's built upon us. Our whole development, our whole outlook, our whole works and everything is built upon us. And if we don't give that time and that nurturing to ourselves, that's going to enhance everything we do, in my opinion, going forward. What do you think about that? Because you're going to tell me, but that's fine.
I will never do in public anyway. No, I believe that when we are looking at like workshops, training, education, whatever phrase we want to put on it, within development as a medium, as a philosopher, as a healer, no matter what direction we choose to take, I believe that self-development is so important, because if we don't know ourselves, how can we? If we don't know ourselves and don't know how to work with ourselves, how should we be able to work with others, or even work with spirits?
Yeah.
So we can take different approaches to it, but it's. I think it's important to look at, first of all our personal development of our own energy, and have an understanding of that. So that's and I think that's no matter what level we are working at. I started 30 years ago with my own development, and 3 years, and still I'm still learning a lot about myself. I'm still going through a personal development, for good and bad. It's brings in hard times. Sometimes we have to look at things within ourselves that's maybe not that lovely to look at. But if we don't do it, I feel like it's, we can still work our mediumship. We can still do so and so and so. But I believe in the end of the day, we will miss something in it, or especially within ourselves.
Very true, very true. And the more we accept to unfold our mediumship, however that expresses itself within us, the more these lessons and things can come up from our own personal side. And sometimes we don't quite know how to deal with it. I'm always a little bit curious when you see some people who seem to be eternally working. Virtually every day of the week, there's an advert that they're working here, working there, working here, working there. And I sometimes wonder if I can equate that, because one of the things I always say to all our healers, whether they've been healing for 10 years, 20 years, or 2 minutes, is in the healing route, you've got to learn how to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Because as the more you work with it, the more things about you will come up. And I found that in my evidential mediumship trait, the more I work with it, the more traits of me that come up. And some of them are really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, I don't want to know that, but I do now, so I've got to do something. So it is really interesting. Lovely comment here from Sue Townsend, who's on Frederick's week. Brilliant week-long course, Frederick. Looking forward to the circles next year. Wonderful. And lovely Reverend Ashley Oliver. It's about the variety of things on offer, and we have it in balance. I am finding more intense circle work coming to the fore in terms of demand. That's interesting, because I love the circle environment. I love a good, well-run, well-disciplined circle where where the leader actually knows what they're talking about, not oh come on then let's sit and see what happens attitude. They actually know what they're doing. They're working to a discipline, and they instill that discipline, and that's an ideal ground to bring to the fore some of those things we've just been talking about, that personal development side. It's not all about, I'm not being disparaging to anybody or any situation. It's not all about teaching tricks to people to perform. It's actually people sitting with themselves and looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting thing to do. Let's have a look in that mirror. So yeah, hats off to you, Ashley. Sue Townsend's picking up on that energy there. Our own self-development and self-awareness may also benefit our philosophy. I'm a big believer it will, and not only improve your philosophy, it will improve your roundness as a medium.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, you've got no, when I say instabilities, you've got no areas of, oh, no, I don't want spirit impinging there because that ricks up too much of my past, so I'm not dealing with that. Lovely Ron, soon to be Minister Ron. Well done, sir. Metaphysics and spiritualism is all about evolving the mind, body, and soul. But when it comes to services, if we don't things the way they did in the past, people get bent out of shape. I see. If we don't do things the way they did in the past, people get bent out of shape. I like that saying, bent out of shape. I find energetic spiritual music will lift my energy for connecting, while the older generations want to keep to the old hymnals. Yeah. The eternal conflict.
Yeah.
But
I think sometimes it could be maybe possible to combine it.
Funny enough, talk about the synchronicity of things. I was thinking here about Christmas on the way, and I've just had it in my head, is to be traditional. I want to go back to traditional this Christmas, and it's just been there, and I'm at that point now. I don't argue. If it's there, it's easier to just go, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But in that unfoldment, lovely Reverend Ashley, who's in the room tonight, then approached me asking if she could do a piece for each Sunday in Advent about the Advent part of the year, which is so traditional but so wonderful. But I know Ashley has got this way of combining what we could call new knowledge with old. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for a word, not old structures. So I just thought, okay, yeah, that's where we're going. We want that. I feel like we need that little bit of tradition at the moment. I feel because everything is just so wrong that people just want a little bit of tradition. I'm not saying revert back to, but I think for this Christmas, it's going to be the traditional style. There'll be Arisha. This is Arisha who keeps jumping off of ladders, ladies and gentlemen. She's over 21, should we say, so she should know better. I agree with what you're both saying. It's most important to do self-awareness before development. Yeah. That would be the ideal situation. Unfortunately, spiritualism's been sold on the message card, and everybody wants to be a medium. And then when you would approach them and just saying, well, actually, we go down this route, people, not everyone, but a lot of people would just go, no, I want to study to be a medium. So we've got to work on getting the self-awareness hand in hand with the development. And it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's brilliant. See, the clock agreed with me.
Yep.
And while we're talking about that, because we've had this conversation, when we look at the way our language that we use within the movement, Now,
Yeah.
I've always had a thing about this. It's no good just saying we're doing a divine service, because most people will go, "What's that then?"
Yeah.
And sadly, most people will go, "Well, that doesn't sound like fun." So, the language that we use, but more, I'm bringing it more into when we look at our training and development of people into whatever expression of their mediumship. The very common phrasing we're seeing, and hand on heart, I've used it and I need to rethink it now. When we talk about beginner, intermediate, and advanced, what's your thoughts on that categorizing?
Brought my thoughts back through the years where I was going through those dates myself, and the experience of how one thing was how I looked at myself, another thing is how other people looked at my level, and how other people looked at their own levels as well. And it's so it's like, well, I think just start sharing a few of my experiences through, especially the years where I was coming at the college, taking courses there. One thing was when I started there that it was typical mixed levels. I started through my development. I started looking at courses for intermediate, and at the end, obviously, I was looking at advanced courses. And what really hit me was how many courses, advanced courses, where we would sometimes start or spending the first couple of days talking about how to blend with spirits. And again been on courses with working mediums where maybe been out doing services, certain churches and things like that. And some of the questions that came up was realized, well, the lack of knowledge, the big gaps in the knowledge, you could hear it in some of the questions where I was sitting there. It seems like I have been fortunate. I have got the basics in from the start. But where I was thinking, well, we're sitting here on an advanced course, and you ask questions that, to me at that time, was really basic, very much beginner stuff. But again, I know we have been talking about before, Lawrence, about the way we often develop as mediums. It's we might attend a church circle, have a workshop here and there maybe have week course on the college, but often there's not a thread through the education. It often becomes a little bit here and there, and before I talk myself totally out of the terms here, coming back to what is a beginner, what is an intermediate, and what is advanced. To me, a beginner is, obviously a beginner, somewhat one that don't have a lot of knowledge, maybe have doing a little bit of circle work, have done a couple of workshops and things like that. To me, that's not an intermediate. I know a lot of people see themselves as intermediate as soon as they have taken a couple of workshops. But to me, I would still phrase them as beginners. For me, looking at the intermediate, an intermediate students is somebody that have the basic understanding in place that is able to link with spirit and bringing the information and evidence forward to have that connection confirmed.
Yeah.
I'm talking about an advance. That's one that have all what an intermediate have, but also have a bigger toolbox, have a bigger understanding of the mechanics behind it, and are able to use those mechanics to expand the information and expand the evidence, going deeper, and build the evidence. It's like lay the bricks in the right order and things like that. So I don't know how confusing that was, but
no idea. No, I followed the thread all the way through, but it is just interesting that again, I think our language within the movement needs some serious reviewing. I'm not saying rush and change it all, but actually look at what we're putting out there and what are we saying, which is always a very good question. What are we saying? As I said, I've come up with a for next year, because I'm not comfortable with beginner, intermediate, advanced in segregating people. So next year's will be based on, you have circle experience but no practical. I can't remember it right offhand, but it is a bit more self-explanatory what levels you're looking at.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, just to break it up. Excuse me for ducking about and moving here, but it's fireworks night over here, and the littlest member of the household is not a happy bunny, bless her heart. So she's just come and sat with Daddy because she's not happy, and bless her little heart. So forgive me for this. But yeah, it is interesting. Our whole language, how there's a training metaphor, and it's called, what was it now? It's the different stages of training, and there was unconsciously incompetent. That means you're doing stuff wrong and you don't know you're doing stuff wrong, so you're just going to continue doing stuff wrong because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
Then there's consciously incompetent, which means you start getting an inkling that you're doing things wrong, but you don't know how to put it right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel right, but I don't know any better to correct it. Then we get consciously competent, which means you know what you're doing and you do the job and everything's wonderful. But then you get into, and this is always described in the training circles as one of the most dangerous areas, is unconsciously competent. And that means you just go in, you do stuff, and you would never explain it to anybody. You wouldn't share it with people around you because you just know what you're going to do. And you barge in and do stuff. And that can actually be more detrimental than somebody who's unconsciously incompetent.
Yeah.
So I apply that sometimes when I look at our whole language, our whole presentation. The lovely Frederick, who chaired on Sunday, did is there anybody here for a first time? And it was a good reminder to me because I very rarely do that. So it's something I do need to do. But then I'm out chatting to people before the service. But anyway, there was about 3 people.
Yeah.
And it was a really good reminder of, don't get unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
Don't expect everybody to understand what you're talking about when you say it.
And I think that's a trap we are all getting into as we're getting more experience, getting more knowledge and things, that we are using words that is obvious to us, but somebody that is not known with spiritualism, known with mediumship, that don't have a clue what we're talking about.
Yeah. I always remember years. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's I try to remind myself that often, and yet I'm still using these phrases. And here in Denmark, often I use uh, the English expressions, and then I have to remember to explain to people what I actually mean.
Yeah.
But to me, it's obvious. Well, when I say like this, that's because it's so and so. But somebody that don't have the understanding of spiritualism, of mediumship, or even of the English terms that we use a lot in Denmark, won't have a clue. Uh, like then there's some mix up with the English versus the Danish language as well, even though we use the same words. But like in Denmark, or like in UK, when churches are using the term an evening of clairvoyance, it will typically be an evening of mediumship. In Denmark, an evening of clairvoyance will be an evening of psychic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's and and basically it's um, and again back to the understanding of the words. I think when we're using like a term of clairvoyance, it's well, clairvoyance is just a French description of one of our senses.
Mm. Yeah.
But people are not really aware of it because they have been used to that in UK. That's an evening of mediumship. In Denmark, that's an evening of psychic. But now in Denmark or in UK, it seems like many people actually have the understanding of the word itself.
Mm. I was once introduced. I mean, I hand over to Lawrence. He's our clairvoyant medium for the evening.
Yeah,
And I said, "Oh, I wish I was." And there's this very strange look because I've gone off script, obviously. And I said, "I wish I did see spirit." And then it became very apparent that the person who introduced me had absolutely no idea what they had actually said.
no,
They
no,
didn't have that
but I can,
understanding. So I thought,
I can,
okay, shut up,
yeah,
Lawrence.
yeah. I can see like in Denmark, as we talked about before, through the last 4 or 5 decades, the psychic have been dominant in Denmark. Then became we started to get I think 25, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, we started have the first English mediums coming over, and suddenly there came a change. Can't remember, 10 years ago maybe, where mediumship became fashionable. So every psychic was suddenly a psychic medium or a clairvoyant medium, as they call it in Denmark, without having the understanding of the difference.
Mm.
And it's just the way that I'm guilty myself, and I know you are as well, Lawrence, the way we use the words. And often ask people, but why do you call yourself a clairvoyant medium? Why not? Because I do both. But then why don't you say that then? I'm a clairvoyant and a medium, or I'm a psychic and a medium.
Mm. Yes. It would be very easy to go too far being pedantic, but I feel people benefit if they have, the more people understand things, um, the more accepting and the more willing they're going to be into integrating into that thought. So I think it is quite an important job that we do look at our language, we do look at our advertising, we do look at the things that we say,
definitely.
our platforms, and just think, all right, there isn't. I don't. Well, I've got a saying that if you try and be everything to everyone, you end up being no one, and I'm very firm on that. But there is nothing wrong with just sometimes thinking about what we've just said, it's called growth, personal development.
Yeah.
How we put that across, and is that understandable?
Yeah.
Did those we had one of the real old school mediums do a few talks here many years ago, actually, on a Tuesday afternoon, and two young ladies came in, never been in a spiritualist church, interested, wanted to find out more. So they sat in on the session. When it got to the questions time, one of them put the hand up, and this lovely lady, she was my last tutor, good old Margaret, and I know she doesn't mind me talking. Bless her heart, and she didn't mean anything at all by this, but it's just a good example of how we get things fixed. This young girl said, "What is a circle?"
Yeah.
And Margaret just went, "What? What's wrong with you? Why don't you?"
Because
it's a perfect example of somebody walking in off the street has no idea what a circle is.
No.
What's it about? What do you do?
Yeah. And it's and you are even fortunate in the UK compared to Denmark and many other countries, because you actually do have the churches more or less on every corner. We don't have that in the rest of Europe, in the States, Australia. There might be some, but there are very few.
But it does put you in quite a unique position, because obviously with the work that we've been doing out of Paul, not only in the church physical, but in the church virtual as well, I'm seeing quite the upsurge of interest, certainly in Europe. And people are wanting to know more and learn more. And I just think, you know what, you've got this really good opportunity. And I've said this before, look at the UK and see what we do right. But even more importantly, actually take a nod towards where things could be improved.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think our presentation of what spiritualism is about needs to be put over in an educated, logical, understandable way, rather than being veiled in the mysticism, which we do get over. Oh, you can't do that in a church. Why not? Oh, you're just
yeah.
I want to know why. Why can't I do that?
And as said earlier as well, we are, of course, looking at how things are done in the UK and have been done over many years, and try to learn from it, being inspired by it, but are doing our own. Like with the seven principles, we are using the seven principles, but in the translation into Danish, we have taken put a more modern phrasing of them, and the philosophy behind is exactly the same, but can I say the headlines are slightly different. Like the fatherhood of God has been put in the belief in God as a creating force. That makes it much more open to everybody. The brotherhood of man is the communion and love between humans and spirit.
Yeah, get that. Good.
And basically saying exactly the same, just phrased a little bit different. that's one of the benefits. We are not locked in orthodox thinking and rules and regulations. We're more free to do it the Danish way, if you put it that way, but more free to do it different, because we have nobody standing behind us to say, oh, you can't do so and you are not allowed to do so, and things. We are making the rules ourselves, and what we have been very much aware of, not to have too many rules.
It's a very fine line.
It is.
Interesting you brought up the principles, because I was in a discussion one night about them, and it was interesting, the points of view, because we can sometimes spend a little bit too much effort in finding things wrong, rather than trying to find a little bit more effort to put things right.
Yeah.
But I do understand that, probably what a lot of people may not understand or may not know, whatever, to be recognized as a religion, you must have this ethos, you must have this mission statement. If you were a business, you have a mission statement, and you must have that to be recognized as a religion. And this is what we see here, that the 7 principles were adopted on that basis to be recognized as a religion.
Yeah.
But of course, in today's world, people are saying, well, I don't, whatever, if it's gender bias, whatever the bias is coming in. And quite right that we should be able to express these opinions. But it is actually part and parcel of the mainstay of why you're a religion. I do wonder that if you were to change them, how much effect that could have on your status as a recognized religion. Because all these things would have to go through charity boards. So a lot of work in there.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But when we're looking at like the 7 principles, we have been talking about and trying to take, when we're talking about the principles, instead of mentioning them as the 7 principles, because 7 principles can be like, it's like so and so and so, and they're not really. They are a philosophy. So when we're talking to people about them, we are doing an effort to say, well, even though it's called principles, it's it is a philosophy. It is an inspiration. It's 7 inspirations for us to the way we can live our life.
Yeah. A little thought just came in my head then, which is natural because I've only got a little head. The 7 pillars.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Anyway, I digress. Arisha here saying our mediumship should be open to experimental research and change. Yeah,
definitely.
Don't be content. Don't ever get there saying, right, I'm a medium. Ta-da, I've arrived.
Yeah.
The lovely Angela Foster.
Hello, Angela.
We also need to be informed and understand what the young generation need and want. We can't ignore that as spiritualism over 150 years was dynamic and still needs to be. Yeah. And Spirit, this is a frustrating thing. Spirit know that.
Yeah.
I have.
And I think now Angela mentioned that over 150 years. I think we need to remember when spiritualism was in the golden days. It was new. It was a new thinking. The world was in big changes. A lot of people adopted spiritualism. Spiritualism gave a platform to the women to have a word as well. So spiritualism, as we know it today, is so. I believe it's so different from what it was 150 years ago. Because 150 years ago, it was new. It was like what's called like I can't get the word now. But it's like a big change was going on in the world, and spiritualism was one of the parts there that have uh, a big impact on many people, and a big impact on the society. I believe, where these days, well, spiritualism have kind of become a part of the daily life for many people, and it's when we look at the pioneers that was back in the time, we still have pioneers these days, but it's but I feel like sometimes the pioneers is the new pioneers these days can be knocked down a little bit by rules and regulations and restrictions, and what we're talking about, that you cannot do that, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. But what can I do?
Yeah, I get
Can I
that.
do? What can I do to progress? What can I do to modernize spiritualism? What can I do to keep spiritualism growing? Because it's seems like every time somebody's trying to change something, there is a lot resistance, a lot of resistance to it as well, and it's sad, but it's
It is. It is sad. And anybody listening, we are not having a pop at any
Oh
organisation.
no! It's just what we don't have an organization here in Denmark. We see it here in Denmark as well.
Yeah. Susan Brothwood Hughes at the rally said something which really stuck with me. It was very poignant, and I thought that's very telling. She was saying in her early days of training about being unhappy with certain things that were put in place, being, just wanting change, wanting to, and we've always been a movement of activists, so it's perfectly understandable. And saying about needing this change to come in and wanting this change. And she was speaking to one of her tutors, and she said, "But how can I affect? we can see we need this change to come into spiritualism. We can see that was of that time, and it doesn't slot into today's energy." And the tutor said, "Well, you need to be the change."
Yeah,
And she's responded, "How can I be the change when you won't let me be the change?"
yeah.
That really, you know what? When I heard that, I went, "I get that. I
Yeah,
really get that."
yeah,
It's so interesting. And Andrew is following up there and saying, "Did Emma want a religion or an ethos for life sustenance?" Really good point.
yeah.
Really good point. Have we let the religion? Oh God, I'm going to be on thoughts tonight. Comment here, lovely Sue Townsend. When my children were at school many moons ago, I would have loved to have been able to go to a development circle group. Similar-minded people could learn and share their spiritual psychic mediumistic experiences. during the period when children are in school. Originally, it took me ages to find an open and more forward-thinking group. Yes, there's always, we've seen the demise of daytime events here in Poole because of falling attendances. But then we're seeing the rise in the evening events, which have replaced them. But there's always going to be that chance. And I would look at a church and just think, how many hours a week are you open? Are you getting the best out of your building? And I know it is so difficult finding volunteers. And I know in today's world, it's even harder. But I do think, we do have endless opportunities, but it's just defining your market and really going for it. But yeah, going back to the change ethos, you quoted there the pioneers of the past. You were part of the conversation. We attended a demonstration last night, and the evidence given was on par, if not exceeding, what the standard of evidence given by our pioneers was, which I found fascinating, absolutely fascinating. But I did follow on with this thought last night and thinking, well, the pioneers demonstrated this such high standard of practice, which supported them in setting up these foundations and groups or whatever. What are today's pioneers? It's great to go out. We're both working mediums. We both know we come home and 9 times out of 10 we beat ourselves up. Oh, I could have done this, could have done that. But when we go out and everything works and it all gels and everything sings together, we come out on a high. But is that it?
But I think if I can just go back to Angela's comment there, did Emma want a religion or an ethos for life assistance? I think we have nothing wrong to have a religion, but I think the problem sometimes when we see in many different religions. When the religion becomes more about politics than the religion, it goes wrong. And going back to the 7 principles, they are not principles in the way that this is how you need. This is how you have to live your life. But to me, they are a philosophical inspiration that can inspire me to go through my day, to live my life in the best possible way.
Yeah.
But without judgment from God or anybody else. As you just mentioned, we are the best people to judge ourselves.
Yeah.
And beat ourselves up.
Yeah, very true. And you look at our world, and especially at the moment, and the word religion, I can't see how the word religion is involved in it because there is no religiousness in there. It is purely politics and nothing else. So to say it's a religious thing is not a religious thing.
No.
It's people being manipulated. But anyway, moving on. Sad.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting. Thank you so much, Jack, for coming along tonight. Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. I hope we've given you some food for thought. If you agree, great. If you don't agree, even better. In the word of Susan's tutor, be the change.
Yes.
So, have you got anything exciting coming up with the association, Jack?
We have the AGM coming up here in a few weeks' time. So, yeah, I think and we will try to look at plan some Christmas services, a few of them around the country. Try trying to get some mediums on globally. So yeah,
Brilliant.
but that's what's on the plan just right now at this moment. So
great stuff. We've got a wonderful service tomorrow with David Powell. He will be leading the service. Next Sunday is going to be our remembrance service, and that's always a very special service here in Poole. And then after that, it's all downhill to a very traditional Christmas this year. Very traditional. So in the meantime, thank you everybody for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again soon. We will be back next Saturday. What day? Saturday, with another Lyceum Night at 7 o'clock. We'll announce a guest during the week. Also, we have our online divine service tomorrow night on Zoom. We have Rish Admonson, Elizabeth Titterton, Stephen Nager, and myself hosting that. That's at 6 p.m. GMT on Zoom. I will repost the links to get into the Zoom room. But in the meantime, have a wonderful night. Hope your animal's all right. My poor little baby girl is absolutely terrified under my chair, bless her. So we're going to have a big cuddles in a minute and big fuss. In the meantime, have a wonderful night, everybody. Jack, thank you once again. Please do something about that spider. It's just starting to give me chills now.
Hey, it's my new pet.
No, keep it over there. Do not bring it with you on your next visit, please. They are my least favourite creation. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Until we see you again. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
God bless.